Hi guys, in this episode we're going to be looking briefly at the grade 5 mock performance task for language arts. So, students were provided with three sources: a newspaper article about former Jamaican athlete Donald Quarry, a biography about Arthur Wint, and a table showing the number of medals won by Jamaican athletes in the last four Olympics. They were asked to read or analyze the sources and then note important points from each source. Their notes should help them prepare to identify and cite important details from each source, as well as use information from the sources to help them write a persuasive letter. All right, so let's take note of some of the things that the examiners are saying here. That the students were asked to read and analyze the sources, then to what? Note somewhat important points, right? And their notes were to help to prepare them, and they were supposed to write some persuasive letter that was there. All right. It goes on. The task had two parts. Part 1 had two questions. Part 2 had one question. Part 1, question 1. Students were given a table grid. Table grid. Now, once we hear about table grid, we're going to think of rows and columns and finding information in that to indicate what details were located in which of the two sources. So again, this means if there are two sources and you're going to identify where the details are, indicate where the details are, it means that you are going to be comparing those particular things. Okay, so students now were asked to use details from the three sources to construct a response supporting the idea that Jamaican athletes are ranked among the best in the world. So you're going to have to now look for some supporting idea based on the information that is presented. All right, now part 2, students were asked to write a letter convincing his or her mother to allow him or her to remain on the school track team. So again, if you're going to be asked to write a letter here, you must know the parts of the letter, right? And you must know how to write in a persuasive or convincing way. Okay, and the subject, of course, of that is the request to remain on the track team. All right. Now, here is the actual paper. It says, and of course, it could look similar to this going forward. We're going to use this idea to help us understand what it is that they're asking us to do. General instructions here. This task has two parts. Part 1 has two questions, and part 2 has a letter. Instructions to begin. It says you will read 3 sources. So if it is that you read only 2, you have a problem. 3. A newspaper article, so that is one of them, about former Jamaican athlete Donald Quarry. So this is important. Donald Quarry is important. A biography about Arthur Wint, and a table showing the number of medals. And this is table won by Jamaican athletes in the last 4 Olympics. On page 6, a space is provided for you to write the important points from each of the sources. It will help you to have your important points to look at while answering the questions in part 1 and for writing your letter in part 2. You may look back at any of the sources. Okay, so source 1. Now, one of the things that the PT requires you to do is to analyze several sources. So you're going to need some skills here. The skills of skimming and scanning, drawing conclusions, inferring. Do you remember we said that PEP requires us now to have what this C, E, J, S. We need to compare, contrast, explain, justify, summarize, and show details. So you must have this. So it was C square EJS squared. Okay. So compare and contrast, explain, justify, summarize, and show details. Let's now look at this in terms of just looking over the thing. And that's a technique called skimming, just looking at the headings. So the Legend of Donald Quarry, see who wrote it, see the date, we look at the picture, right? We look at the title, look at the words in bold. So we just have a general look over the article. All right, so look over the article. So the Legend of Donald Quarry lives on at the University of South Carolina by Sanjay Myers, Observer Staff Reporter, August 2nd, 2015. Donald Quarry, and here's a picture, and we see on it 4-time Olympic medalist, 3-time gold medalist at the Pan American Games, and 6-time gold medalist at the Commonwealth Games, Jamaican Sportsman of the Year 1970 to 71 and 1975 to 77. It says here a large photo of former Jamaican sprinter Donald Quarry and some of his achievements feature along the wall inside Heritage Hall at the University of South Carolina. California, United States. Usain Bolt, Shelly-Ann Fraser, Price, Veronica Campbell, Brown, and Asafa Powell are world-renowned Jamaican athletes. They deserve all the praise they receive for carrying the hopes of the country at various world championships and Olympic Games. We should never underestimate all they and others have achieved for our people. It continues now. The mark left by the former sprint great Donald Quarry should also never be taken lightly. Here at the University of Southern California, he certainly appears to be highly thought of. The evidence is clearly emblazoned inside the walls of the Heritage Hall. The other day, I just happened to be whisking through the quiet and luxurious hall when a very familiar face jumped at me from the wall just as I passed. I stopped, then backpedaled in slow motion. There he was, none other than Donald Quarry, baton in hand and in fine form. I ran into it by chance, and what a proud feeling it brought. These US schools famously cherish their basketballers, baseball players, and American football stars, and Quarry is right there amongst them. Now, I have heard that iconic Jamaican athletes are featured at universities or colleges they attended in similar fashion. But it was a new and exciting experience for me. So excited I was that a few times since I've deliberately walked that way so I could sneak a few extra photos. After all, it's not every day I see such things. Okay. So that's source 1. Let me just look back over the source and look at some of the things that jump out at me. So this is California, and they list some of the other athletes here. We see Bolt, we see Shelley, VCB, and Safa, and they deserve praise. Yes. And we see World Championships, Olympics. Okay, Donald Quarry, and he's inside the walls of this. That's important. All right. Okay. The person felt proud. This looks like an important statement. Yes. Okay. So I have a basic idea of the first source. Second source. This is the biography. Arthur Wint, known as the Gentle Giant, was born in Plowden, Manchester, Jamaica. While at Calabar High School, he ran sprints and did both the high jump and long jump. He later transferred to Excelsior High, where he finished his secondary education. In 1937, he was the Jamaica Boy Athlete of the Year, and the following year won a gold medal in the 800 meter at the Central American Games in Panama. In 1942, he joined the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan and set the Canadian 400 meter record while training there. He was sent to Britain for active combat during World War II as a pilot. He left the Royal Air Force in 1947 to attend St. Bartholomew's Hospital as a medical student. In the 1948 London Games, Wint won Jamaica's first gold medal for the 400 meter at 46.2 seconds, beating his teammate Herb McKinley. In the 800 meter, he won silver after American Mal Whitfield. So in the 800 meter, he won silver after America's Matt Whitfield's gold. Wint missed a probable third medal when he pulled a muscle in the 4x400 meter relay final. In Helsinki in 1952, he was part of the historic team setting the world record while capturing the gold in the 4x400 meter relay. He also won silver in the 800, again coming second to Mal Whitfield. Wint ran the final race in 1953 at the Wembley Stadium, finished his internship and graduated as a doctor. The following year, he was made a member of the Order of the British Empire, MBE, by Queen Elizabeth II. Oh, that's important. Let me just make a little note here, so because this is high recognition by the Queen herself. In 1955, Wint returned to Jamaica, eventually settling in Hanover as the only resident doctor in the parish. Can you imagine that? In 1973, he was awarded the Jamaica Honor of the Order of Distinction. I guess that's OD. He served as Jamaica's High Commissioner to Britain and Ambassador to Sweden and Denmark from 1974 to 1978. He was inducted in the Black Athletes Hall of Fame in the US in 1977, the Jamaica Sports Hall of Fame in 1989, and the Central American and Caribbean Athletic Confederation Hall of Fame in 2003. Arthur Wint died on Heroes Day in Linstead at the age of 72. That's another very good article there. And source 3 looks at the number of Olympic medals won by Jamaican athletes. So we have 2004, 2 gold, 1 silver, 2 bronze, a total of 5. In 2008, we have 5 gold, 4 silver, 1 bronze, a total of 10. In 2012, we have 4 gold, 5 silver, and 3 bronze, and that gives us a total of 12 here. This was 10, this is 12. And in 2016, we have 6 gold, 3 silver, and 2 bronze with a total of 11. Okay. So it says here, instructions for part 1, and this would have been for 45 minutes. Now that you have read the sources, answer the questions below. Now please don't read them only once. I'm only doing that here to save on time, but in the real exam, make sure you read these things more than once. Your answers will be scored. You may refer to the important points you made as well as the sources. Your answer to these questions will help you write your essay in part 2. So questions, it says here, for each of the following statements, indicate with a tick whether the information in the source, in source 1, source 2, or both sources or neither support each of the following statement. You can tick only one box for each statement. Now, let's go with this. So it says here, Donald Quarry is considered one of the best athletes to represent Jamaica in track and field. Alright, so is this source 1? Is this source 2? Both sources support this or neither support that. Alright, so let's go with this. Jamaica's first Olympic gold was in the 400 meter, was won in the 400 meter in 1948. Next one, Jamaica's athletes have been able to do well in athletics as well as their school work. All right, and let's go on now. Now, here is a list that we must pay close attention to. Must pay very keen attention to this. It says, what are the skills and content measured in question 1 of the task? The objectives from the NSC, that is the National Standards Curriculum, upon which this is based, associated with question 1 are as follows. Use evidence to deduce implicit information. Now, what do they mean by implicit information? Now, from our textbook, we know that implicit information is information that is implied. It may not be stated directly, while explicit information is that information that is stated directly. Then you need to skim for different ideas, right? And scan for specific information. So we have skimming and scanning. Those are 2 very important things that you need to know how to do. And I remember sharing this video with you, and if you look here, skimming versus scanning. Skimming is a reading technique used when you want to get a general idea or gist of the text or time is limited. So you're just going to skim. It's for fast reading of the text for the main idea but not details, and the comprehension of details is lower. But what is scanning? Scanning is a reading technique used when you want to locate a single fact or specific information without necessarily reading every word. It is a fast way to find specific information, and one must be accurate. So that is skimming and scanning. So again, now it says you have to align the details to the main idea, draw inferences, identify main ideas, establish cause and effect, and compare and contrast. So when it is that they talk about deduce, that means that you need to do what? Arrive at a fact or conclusion by reasoning. You draw as a logical conclusion. All right. What about inference? Inference, it's a conclusion reached based upon evidence and reasoning. So let's go on now and see here. So they gave the rubric here. Scores here. This is talking about how they scored it. And let's go. So it says here, this is samples of the responses. Here we go now. So Donald Quarry is considered one of the best athletes to represent Jamaica in track and field. That would only be found in source 1, because source 1 was dedicated to Quarry alone. Source 2 was about Arthur Wint, while source 3 was not specific to any athlete. It just spoke about the country and the medals it would have gotten over a particular period of time. Jamaica's first Olympic gold medal was in the 400 meter and was won in 1948. Now that would come from the autobiography, right? Because it says that Wint would have won that first gold medal. All right, so let's jump back and verify that one. So here we are now back at the text, and we can see here it says in 1948 at the London Games, then Wint won Jamaica's first Olympic gold medal for the 400 meters. So this whole section here gives us the information that we are looking for. All right, so all of this information right here, so that's where that would prove to us that this is from source number 2. So if we look at it, here it is, source number 2. This is the information that we are looking for, so that proves that. So we jump back now, and it says here, last one, Jamaica's athletes have been able to do well in athletics as well as their school work. Now both source 1 and 2 support this, because it talks about in source 1 that Donald Quarry doing well at this university there, and the source goes on to say that many other Jamaican athletes, you can find pictures of them in different universities. That means that they would have been doing well at sports, and also at the same time being able to do well in their academics. With the Arthur Wint, source 2, that also proves that he was able to do well not only in sports, but he also became a medical doctor, came back and was the only resident doctor in the parish of Hanover. All right, so that proves that he did well academically. However, so it says neither source 1 or 2 support that. You notice that that is not true, as both sources support that particular question. Yes, so you would have to give a tick to all of the options that you have, and please make sure you give a nice tick so that it can be clearly seen. Let's look at something the examiners point out here. Here we have a student's sample response, and it says here that the ticks at the first and third statement are accepted. So this is the first and this is the third statement. Those are accepted. The tick at the second statement cannot be interpreted. So here you have one tick here, one tick here. Interpreted, as students were required to tick only one box for each statement. Now, One could argue that the child was trying to rub something out and it was not done properly, or they really thought that it should have been to. Regardless of that, the examiners are pointing out that you need to have one clear tick for your response, because they told you ahead of time that you should give only one tick per section. So, okay, to wrap this up now, what I would want you to do is to do part 2. I don't have a set of sample responses, so we could actually look at some of the letters that were written for this exercise. But what you could do, you could go ahead and write. It says students were asked to write a letter, right, convincing the parent to allow him or her to remain on the school's track team. So that is something that you can do now, and you can take that back to class. Yes, I know that we spent quite a bit of time looking at this particular question, or this particular task, performance task, yes, language arts. And I hope that going into this type of detail will help you to better understand what is required of you and how you're going to have to interact with multiple sources in order to come up with certain things. Remember, compare, contrast, explain, justify, show details, and to summarize. All right, guys, take care. I'll see you in the next episode.